Let's see if anyone shows up here before New Year's. Kind of awkward. I guess I gotta sit here and wait to see if people show up. Never did this before. I don't know what all this stuff about moderation is in the chat, but we'll ignore it and take the risk. While we wait, I guess I could use this opportunity to talk about the new op. All that's left is HVAC. We started putting up mini splits and everything like that. Just got to charge the lines once they're up. The actual wall units are up. We still have to put the condensers outside up and everything, but we figured we'd wait till after the holiday. And these systems are pre-charged, so you could just pull the it's not Freon, but whatever the new one is, you could pull that through the lines to charge the system fully, and then we can move in. So that place has 3 grow rooms. One of those grow rooms is 1.5 times what I'm currently growing in, so my garage and the extra tent that I have. So that's going to be a huge upgrade for us as far as production capability. We're going to start with just the 1 grow room at first and eventually go into the other 2 as needed. The original idea for me was to just fill them all up and bombard the whole thing, but I'm thinking maybe we just take it easy at first. So I'm really excited about that. That's been about 3 years in the making, working on that, and if we get enough people that want to know about it, we could talk about that, but I'd rather answer questions for everybody else while we sit around. Hope everybody's having a good New Year's. I have a 4-year-old, so there's no more going out on New Year's and having fun and drinking and all that stuff. Instead, it's a little more reserved, and we lit some fireworks in the driveway, that kind of thing. So it's weird to see that my phone dings telling me that Cactus Hat Mushrooms is live. So if anyone here has any questions, feel free. My goal is to make this like a rapid fire consult for everybody if I can. I got an hour to kill before I pack it in for the night. So whoever has questions out there, feel free to type it away and I will answer to the best of my abilities. Let me see, what else can I talk about the new building? It is 40 minutes from where I am currently. It's on 5 acres, and the building is 3,000 square foot. That allows us to put the entire operation in that building instead of me having it in my house, currently kind of scattered everywhere. Hey, dank mycology. What type of bag do you use? Any recommendation for 5-pound blocks? What filter patch is best for lion's mane? So good news is almost all the bags you're going to use are the same. It just comes down to what size blocks you want. If you're using 5-pound blocks, use the 14A bags. That's through Unicorn. I can't speak for the other brands. There's other ones out there from Alibaba and stuff like that, but with Unicorn for 5-pound bags, it's going to be the 14A type, and that's going to be a 0.5 micron filter patch. In Spawn, you would use a 0.2 micron filter patch because you want it to be more restrictive to keep more contaminants out. But since it's for substrate, you want the 0.5 micron because you don't mind a little more air exchange as the mycelium colonizes the entire thing. Spawn's more important, makes the whole thing tick, so you want to protect that a little more because if the spawn's bad, everything's bad. So for your substrate, 14 A's for 5-pound bags, and if it's 10-pound blocks, use the XLSA. It's just the same thing as the 14A, just bigger. That's what I use. I use 10-pound blocks in XLSA bags. Dank, where are you based out of? Dank mycology. Let's see, what kind of emojis do we got here? I gotta do this more. This is pretty cool. But I gotta work on the lighting too. Oh, cool. My wife is from Wisconsin. All her family's over there, in an area called Bloomington. I've been there a couple of times. It's near Iowa somewhere. I don't remember where exactly. If you look up Bloomington, Wisconsin, low population town, and the majority of it's her family. It's like there's like one mill, like one gas station, one bakery. And that's kind of how it starts, right? Like you're just having fun with it, and that's how it did for me. And then next thing you know, you're hooked, like truly, truly hooked, and you're working your job, and over time, your real job, you become more and more miserable. You're just thinking about all the stuff you'd rather do on your mushroom business, and next thing you know it, you have a brand, and you're like, oh, I'll just start a LLC. Oh, let me just pay someone to make me a logo, and then you kind of oopsie daisy your way into a full fledged business, if you put enough passion into it. Um, so I believe that it's tiny, but we're all tiny, brother. Like every one of us. Even after my expansion, that's going to make me one of the bigger ones in the area. But in the grand scheme of things, it's all still very tiny. And if you don't sell much, you should consider it. You should probably grow up some extra, right? Enough that you could give yourself and your friends. But maybe if you could get rid of 10 pounds, hey, that's an extra $100. I think you should do that. At least try it if you're passionate enough about it. I also got some friends out in Wisconsin that I miss dearly. They moved here from Tampa out there, to Madison, so I got to go visit out there soon. And if you have any questions, Dank, just rapid fire. Even if it's just you and me, think of it as a consult for free. As far as bags too, I've been meaning. I saw a bunch of other options on, like Alibaba and stuff like that, and they seem vastly cheaper. But I never actually took it far enough to see what the shipping would be, and I also don't know how they perform. Bags would get very costly. 1,000 of them's like $550 or something like that. And I'm sure there's a discount if you buy by the pallet, but not all of us have storage for an entire pallet of bags, or the want to drop 10K or whatever it's going to be for an entire pallet to get some sort of discount. So, um, but I got to find another option for that. 5 people were climbing. First live stream ever. So clearly I don't know what I'm doing. So the more questions you ask, the more I can talk. Otherwise, I'm just going to be talking to myself, which is fine. I do that now, anyways. Happy New Year, Joe. You got a great name. You guys partying tonight after this stream, or are you packing it in like I am? There's a mushroom farmer. There is no holidays, right? I um I did all my harvesting earlier today, and, just so I could have one free night. So Joe, I could tell right away, you're serious about mushroom farming. These things don't stop. You always have to make blocks. You always have to knock and shake blocks. It's an endless cycle. One thing I did incorporate was a routine schedule every week. And that for me was a game changer. You see, Dank is cleaning up and painting his new mushroom in the base. See, some hard workers in the mushroom world, at all levels. It's forget the holidays. This is what we have to do. Man, this lighting, my beard just looks like pure blackness. So the schedule, what I've been doing that's helpful to me is I do blocks twice a week. I make blocks. So I've been doing it on Mondays and Wednesdays. So it looks something like this. Mondays, make blocks. Tuesday, unload that trough. Do deliveries. Wednesday, inoculate the blocks that I had unloaded. And when we're done inoculating and shaking, we go make another 100 blocks. Thursday, unload those 100 blocks. Do deliveries. Friday, we knock and shake that second batch of 100 blocks. If I manage to accomplish that every week and do all the little farm tasks in between all those days, whether it's harvesting, cleaning, fixing, replacing, I usually have the weekends off. That's when everything's perfect. We're not struggling to get any materials like pellets or anything like that, but every week, if that could happen, we constantly have the weekends off. At least the guys do. I might have to do, like you guys said, some lab work or some odds and ends, but I won't have this like big hammering thing that just hogs up half my day. If you guys don't have some sort of schedule going, definitely map one out that works for you. I have a family, so I try to keep my weekends open. That's important to me. That's kind of one of the reasons I started a business, and a lot of us do, is just to have some sort of control back. So that schedule is important to me. If I were single, I'd be working every day, all day, 100%, because there's nothing else for me to do. But in this case, I have, a life now, so I need to balance the two. So I have to work hard in sprints. It's a sprint for me, not a marathon. I'm sprinting every day. I'm sprinting for a few hours. I hammer out these blocks, knock and shake these blocks, clean the room, and usually we're done by 2 o'clock every day, and that leaves my 2 o'clock on to run my business in other ways, whether it's advertising or YouTube video or just spend time with my kid, which is usually what happens. Oh, what's up, Noah? Happy New Year. You too, man. I love seeing all the people I've talked to throughout the years thriving. I just watched your video, I think it was yesterday or today, on your steamer tanks. Oh, snap. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. And I'm just so glad at least one of my videos helped people out. That steamer barrel video helped out a lot of people. That one by far gave me the most connection with people. Like, I got a lot of emails since I released it, and with not that many questions, so I was really happy about that. Every now and then there was like a little question about something specific that I didn't cover, but overall that video turned out good for a crappy cell phone video. So I'm really happy that panned out, and I'm really glad to see that you're crushing it over there. The stock pot you're using, or the stainless pot, I almost wonder if that would work better than the 30-gallon drum that I have, because I read in one of your comments in that video that said you were using one 5,500 watt element in there. I'm using 2 in my barrel, and I almost wonder if the smaller container would be better. Maybe yours produces steam faster than mine. So it's something for me to reach out to you and talk to you about. Time to teach me something. Does the steam barrel work for spawn, or is it just for pasteurization? So here's my answer. No, it does not. And then here's what happens. Production of spawn makes the whole thing tick, right? Clean spawn, without clean spawn, none of this works. That's like the centerpiece to all of it. And traditionally people will tell you, okay, we'll use a Presto, right, or an All-American, and you need some sort of autoclave with 15 psi pressure and all that stuff. And then as people grow, they have their Presto and then eventually another Presto, but they're bottlenecked at the spawn level. So they try to find some sort of workaround where they could produce, say, 200 5-pound bags of spawn in one shot, because that would solve all my problems, right? If I could just get all of them in this trough and pump steam into it just like blocks, it's going to work. And the truth is, sometimes, yeah, sometimes you can, and you will be successful. There's even people, and to me this is dirty. I talked about this on one of the interviews. I think it was with Eric Lohman. There's people that sell pasteurized spawn. I don't like that as a business model. Because sure, you're going to have successes in there, but you're going to have a lot of failure too, because spawn is to be truly sterilized, and pasteurization doesn't quite do that. With substrate, you get away with it because it's just substrate, but spawn has to be perfect. And as a business, I don't want to add any more risk than I have to. At that point, if I need more spawn and I just don't want to buy it, I'm going to buy one of those 150-liter electronic devices that everybody's selling these days. Most of them are from Asia somewhere. Some claim that there are American-made ones. I find it hard to believe. I feel like a lot of people are just getting equipment from China and reselling it here for a profit because it's easy coin. But I would just buy one of those 150-liter, I forget, something scientific makes them. Because then you could do like 30 or 45-pound bags at a time, and that operates under pressure. So, and those things could be, depending where you get them, anywhere from $2 to like $6,000. You know, if you're buying them from someone in America, it's probably going to be a jacked up price. If you're buying them from Alibaba or something, it's going to be lesser, money-wise. I would just get one of those. I wouldn't personally, if you're a business, I would not pasteurize spawn. I would stick to pressure. So 15 psi for however many hours you need. Usually it's 3 or 2, some people say. I would just stick to pressure, and if you ever need more spawn, just get a bigger vessel. But you could do some damage with just 2 Prestos. I did for the longest time. I just had 2 Prestos, and I was doing 2 runs of spawn every week. So that's 16 spawn bags. Each one of those spawn bags is good for 30 blocks. So you do that every week, you're never behind on spawn. Hell, you could have some contaminate, and you don't even care because you have so much extra coming behind it. So I would either add more pressure canners or All-Americans, or just buy an actual device and forget about steam pasteurizing, ultra pasteurizing, super pasteurizing, whatever you want to call it. Forget about that. That is for substrate. Spawn, stick to pressure, get your success, grow your business, make money. How much spawn are you using? I guess that's for dank. Well, what's happening too is you got people selling spawn, and instead of buying a autoclave, like TR Davis has an autoclave, right? Very few mushroom farmers actually have a real deal big boy autoclave. These things are big. They go through the wall into the lab, so one end opens in the lab, the other end could be loaded in the dirty area. Those things are like, I don't know, $100,000 probably used, on top of all the inspections you need to install them, because you need a boiler to hook up to them and everything. So people look for shortcuts, and unfortunately mushroom farming is popular now, so people try to make a quick buck, and they figure, hey, maybe we just make spawn in a trough and we just keep it G2, right? We'll use G1s and we'll sterilize those under pressure the way we're supposed to. But we'll use those G1s to create G2s that were steam sterilized, and we'll just roll the dice on it and get paid. And any mistake someone else makes, it's their fault. It's just, to me, it's like, that's my take on it. Am I wrong? Possibly. but that's what it feels like to me. Just a quick money grab and a quick way to get numbers out, get volume out of spawn to sell. I don't like that practice. I would personally never buy G2, G1, anything from someone who just steam pasteurized it. If I'm buying it, I need to know it's going to work. So I'm not doing that. I'm buying it from a legit source. Joe doesn't like ship spawn. I get it. I totally get it. I have decided for the busy season on my farm to streamline things, to make things smoother. Lately, I've been purchasing spawn from main cap and stem. I also buy sometimes from Eric Myers. He's got a pretty good little operation going, and he has a lot of good equipment that he sells. So he's kind of becoming a one-stop shop, and he helped me way back in the day when I first started. So I try to throw him some coin every now and then to just support how I can. But primarily, I make my spawn, unless we're counting from this year, 2023 that is, because I started buying spawn just to ease the workload. And I think there's a certain point where you reach where it makes more sense financially to buy the spawn. It just makes it more consistent and just easier to keep hold of your business or keep track of everything, because if you're just buying the spawn, you just focus on the blocks, grow rooms, and customer service instead of adding in culture work, lab work. When you buy the spawn, you eliminate everything behind it in the timeline. The downside to buying spawn is, one, where you live. I live in Tampa, so it's hot. You ship in spawn, and if it's not on ice packs, it's pretty much unusable on arrival. And very few people actually ship with ice packs. TR Davis does, Main Cap does, and I'm pretty sure that's it, unless you're going to, straight to the source, like Amicel or Lambert's or something like that. A general rule is don't ever buy spawn from somebody when it's hot out. Don't ever buy spawn from someone who doesn't ship refrigerated or at least ice packs. Main Cap actually has an option. I think they do it twice a month on Mondays. I think it's the second Monday, where they will ship spawn Southwest same day. All right, so it's refrigerated to the airport, it's refrigerated to the plane, it's refrigerated when it lands and is unloaded. You go pick it up, still refrigerated. So when you take it home, it's a safe bet. You got to pay extra for that same day stuff, but they also have other shipping options that are also faster. They only use refrigerated trucks. So that's a safer bet. I'm not saying you won't ever get contamination from even main cap. It's happened to me, but it's much less likely if the entire process is refrigerated. So be very careful, especially in the summer, if you're getting spawn from people and it's not chilled the whole way. Oh, you see, I don't know about when main cap switched those bags. I just started buying from them in October, November, somewhere in there. So a bag change could definitely affect things. Even Unicorn drops the ball constantly. Every time I open up a new Unicorn box, it's like, all right, well, what's wrong with this batch? Is it too thin? Is it too thick? Has the composition of the plastic changed? I had some where none of the filter patches were like my thumbs were going through them, or little pinholes. I've had some where the gussets weren't even the same size. Like this one would be like this, and this one would be like this. So folding was a nightmare. It sounds like Eric fixed it, thankfully. So, but I've been having a very good experience buying spawn from Eric Lohman, that is, and Eric Myers too. I don't buy as much spawn from Eric Myers, but I do every now and then. Eric Myers has the strain of lion's mane that I prefer the most. Eric Lohman also has that strain too now. But every now and then, if maybe I used up more spawn than I thought, because sometimes I'll have, whether it's other farms near me that want blocks, or a large order of grow kits for a store or something, so I have to like make an extra batch of blocks. So I go through the spawn faster. Sometimes I can't get the spawn from main cap fast enough, but Eric Myers has it, so then I buy those from him to kind of fill in the gaps. Dude, Unicorn, I believe I heard they had management change a while ago. And I don't even remember where I heard this information. They had a change in management, and all of a sudden the marijuana industry found a use for the XLS-A bags. This was like maybe 6 or 7 months ago, somewhere around June. And when the marijuana industry found a use for the XLS-A bags, it caused this massive shortage. And all of us were scrambling to find bags. Thankfully, I'm not using 5,000 bags a month or anything. I'm like about 1,000 bags every month. So I had enough to like kind of get through it, and I was able to contact a few people. Thankfully, I think that's leveled out now. So I don't believe there's a consistent shortage anymore. At least I'm not feeling one, but I was mailing other farmers bags. They were mailing me bags. It got messy for a little while, but everybody seemed to survive okay. I'm hoping somebody comes up with some other much more affordable way, even if it's bags, even if it's not, just something else, maybe some sort of paper, I don't know, that could survive like one pasteurization cycle or something. But something's got to give there. They're horrible for the environment and all that, but it's still the best option. They're just crap. It's been good the last like 2 months, but overall it's been pretty crap. I see, Joe, did you say where you were at? Where are you based out of, Joe? Have you been seeing much blotch on oysters lately? I'm fighting it now. Sucks. Lately, no. North Carolina. Cool. Lately, Joe, no. I haven't been getting blotch. What strain of oyster are you getting your blotch on? And while you type that out, I'll talk about my experience with blotch. I grow primarily the King Blue strain. I find the King Blue strain from Mossy Creek to be easy to sell. And that's like my main goal when it comes to growing mushrooms, is which mushrooms can I actually sell. I could grow, and I used to grow just like every other farmer, like 9 different varieties and all this stuff. But over time, everybody nailed down on oysters. So I found that King Blue was the easiest to sell because I can boast about the tender stem. Blue CNS and the Blue Oyster TR is selling. I'm not sure which oysters TR is selling. I want to say it's AMSL 3015, but I could be wrong. I've been growing King Blue, which is known to be a big time blotch baby. That oyster either gives you the best blue oysters possible or a blotchy mess. This time of year in Tampa, it's cool. I don't want to say cold because I got some people in Wisconsin and North Carolina and all this stuff. But it gets cool. At night it might get 42 here. So I haven't been getting much blotch. In the summer, I get a lot more blotch. And the common answers you'll get from people if you post this on different forums is clean your humidifier and lower your humidity. I assume, and I could be wrong, I assume everybody's cleaning their humidity tote as much as they can and using a UV light in that tote. That should help with that. The ducting that goes into the room also needs to be replaced or cleaned. If you're using PVC, you could clean it out with a pressure washer, or if you're like me, I just replace the dryer ducting with a new one, and that's it. I also find people generally run their rooms way too wet and they don't adjust it when there's a temperature change. For example, I'm in my garage, right? My primary grow room is in the garage. The garage is insulated somewhat, but not well enough. So it's still subject to the temperature change outside. I'm still being affected by that. So in the summer it gets hot, my grow rooms also get hot because my garage is not insulated properly and the AC is not strong enough in there. So temps in the peak summer could get up to 78 in there, which is way too hot. When that happens, I start getting blotch, lots of it. And up until like maybe last year, I would never change the humidity, ever. And then I started reading other posts that people had about dew point and all this stuff. And when the temperature changes, the air accepts moisture differently. When it's colder, it holds less air or less moisture. When it's warmer, it could hold more moisture. So when you know that, you have to adjust. And truthfully, I see some people cranking it like, like 85 to 100% humidity, which is just crazy. I find the sweet spot for me is to have it, and in the garage I'm talking about, I have the low end at 80, the high end at 87. My tent in the house runs wetter. I find all tents run wet. And I never trust that humidity sensor on the Inkbird or the other one, the Willy or whatever it's called. The tent, I actually take the bottom end down to 70 and the high end is 86. So it's a lot drier in there than most people keep it. And that swing's a big deal too. If you're not doing that, I recommend swinging that humidity, give it time to dry out. Moisture sitting on the caps, even if you don't see visible moisture, sometimes it's too wet and it never truly has time to evaporate. And that moisture just sitting there the whole time is just a nice, perfect little pool for bacteria to thrive. And eventually turning your beautiful blue cluster coming into like patches of brown or one big patch of brown, maybe the whole thing aborts too. When it gets colder, I turn my humidity down because the air can't accept as much moisture. So if I don't change that, the room's going to get too wet. When it's hotter, I can turn it up more because the air can hold more moisture. The air can only hold so much. Now, I'm no master at dew points and all this stuff, but that's what's worked for me. I haven't had any blotch this winter. This past summer I did until I started adjusting things, and then it went away then too. But since I figured that out, that I needed to actively adjust my moisture levels, my humidity, I haven't had any issues. That's not to say they won't come back. They definitely will. But so far, so good. And when I go to that new place, I have one of those Hart Pola Mister combos, the high pressure misting system. I'm going to have a slew of problems with that I'm going to have to learn about too. I had to cut King Blue a long time ago because of blotch. Exactly. King Blue, I'm a gambler. I like gambling. King Blue is like the gambler strain, But it's treated me better than most, I think. Keep that culture fresh too. Depending where you get the culture, you might get something that's older too and is just weak as hell. Reach out to Mossy Creek themselves. Figure out how fresh that liquid culture they made is. Buy it direct from them. Sometimes when you buy that culture from other vendors, it's diluted and aged to a point where it's not even good to use. Quarterly refresh sounds good. I used to do that too. I would do all the work, all right, from slant to plate. Eventually, I added liquid culture. I've since moved away from liquid culture because I was getting contamination and stuff like that. But part of that's my fault because I didn't refresh the jar often enough. So one jar lasts so long. I was just using it like an animal without QAing it. and we get burned a couple times. But I've actually reverted back to plates for G1s. And that was a main, Eric Lohman inspired me to do that, just the old way. But honestly, I've been buying spawn the last couple months, and I haven't had to worry about any of that stuff. I just get the final product and expand that if I can. That's another thing too, is buying spawn all the time for every block would be very expensive. But you could always buy the spawn. It comes in G2. You could expand that one time to G3, just save one bag of whatever strains you got. In my case, it's Blue Oyster and Lion's Mane. And you could expand that to Generation 3, as much spawn as you want. So, you figure you get probably 30 you get 30 G3s from one spawn bag. So you could stretch that out. And that's been great for me because now I've been able to bypass a lot of the lab work. There's the lab right there, by the way. I've been able to bypass a lot of that lab work and refreshing things. After a while, Cactus Hat locally grew enough where I was focusing too much on little things like culture management, and I had to focus more on customer service. So if I'm able to streamline the process, it made more sense to get spawn. When I go back, when things slow down in summer, I'm probably going to start making my own stuff again. G1s, that is, spawns. I'm probably just going to stick with plates. But the quarterly refresh, that's aces, buddy. That's the way to do it. I also had this thing too where I would buy a culture and I would inoculate my liquid culture jar with it. And then when that was just looking aged or not too great, or I just had it a while, I would just buy the culture again and make another jar. So that's another way to refresh it. But someone like Andrew at Mossy Creek is really good with the cultures. I love what he's doing over there. I can only imagine how much refreshing he has to do. You should try enoki. I have. I did Velvet Foot. I think the company was. I have to look it up. It's Appalachian Gold. They had a golden enoki. I did that grow one time, and it was amazing. I have to look up pictures on it, and man, it sold so well. That, come to think of it, I probably should listen to you and grow more enoki. The golden enoki, the first time I tried to grow it, I was told to let it pin in the bag during incubation. So the first time, it took a surprisingly long time. I was expecting this to be fast like oysters, but eventually I saw what looked like a thin layer of grass or something like on the top. And I was like, oh great, it's time. So then I go and I cut the top off and all that. And none of that like blossomed. It just all died. But then behind it, all of a sudden, I had the most insane enoki growth. Like every block, it was beautiful. Every block had a full canopy. To the point where just to harvest these things, I couldn't like just bunch it up like this and then get it all off because it would be a mess. I had to get a serrated knife and like trim along the bottom, and it resembled, it was like sod almost, the way that grew. And I used those enokis to fill in the gaps in mixed boxes that would go out to restaurants, and everybody loved them. I sold all of them, but I never had a chef go, hey, can I get 10 pounds of golden enoki? So for my purpose, it was more of a fun grow, something different to do, something to mix it up. But it all moved that time. But if I grew it all the time, I don't know if I could move it all the time. It worked that time. But every single go at it, I don't know if I could actually move all the products. So golden enoki is amazing. And everyone, that Velvet Foot strain, Appalachian Gold, oh my God, incredible. Do you have, hey Andreas, do you have a bag tumbler or shake everything by hand? By hand. I tried the whole dryer thing, that Eric Myers had put out a few years back, where he rigged up a dryer where he took off the door, he removed the heating element, and you rig it up so that it'll still run when the door's open. And I think he put memory foam or something inside of his. I decided not to put anything in mine, right? So I actually removed two of the fins that were in the dryer. I just had the one fin. And it worked pretty good. I still found if I just inoculated a block and I sealed it, and it's still compressed, and I just threw it in the dryer, it didn't work. It was still too hard, too brick-like to actually break up and mix that spun around. So I was like, okay, well, let me just crack it first, right? Let me get the block on the table, drop an elbow on it just to get it going. So I would do that, and then I would throw it in the dryer. It would start mixing it up, and it would do better, but it still had lots of big clumps. So then I was like, okay, well, let me break it up a little more before I throw it in there. So I crack it, I break up the biggest boulders, and then I throw it in. And then I realized all the time I'm spending just breaking up the big boulders, I could have been done with it just by shaking it by hand. It works for some people. I think it would work better depending how the blocks come out of your steam container. If you think about the trough, when you load it, they're sitting on top of each other. So they're weighted down, and you have this brick, right? The weight from the blocks above it are crushing the middle and bottom levels. So they get really, really hard. So when you throw it in there, it's a pain in the butt to actually get them to break up the block and to get a proper mix. If you're steaming on, say, carts, where the blocks are on shelves in a shipping container or something, nothing is smashing it down, so the substrate has a more powder-like consistency. I bet you that would do way better in a dryer. Because if there's no like massive boulders in there, when you throw it in the dryer, it'll just mix up real easily. But I'm still operating out of the trough, so right now we're still bagging by hand. It's just better. We've been actually growing on pine, and the pine pellets break up better than the hardwood pellets. So the final product, after I inoculate and hand it to my guy, he shakes it up with ease. You could almost do it with just like 3 fingers, mix up those bags really easy. Switching to pine has been really helpful in cutting down shaking time. I got this darn heart in the way of the, let's see, pin on the block. No, never pin on the block. Yeah, I don't know. I only did it one time, and it was wildly successful. I loved it. I almost wonder if I could skip the pinning and incubation and instead just cut the top off and just see how it does. I only grew it that one time. I've seen people side fruit that too, and with awesome success. And it kind of broke my head with that, because I thought those were only top fruiters, but I was way off on that. They're asking about the golden enoki, and I was just thinking about that picture of you holding the block with that full canopy. That grow is amazing. Black Pearl Kings are another one that a lot of people will top fruit, but some people side fruit them with success too. I used to side fruit them, and I would have like random success. It wasn't until I started top fruiting that I started having consistency. Hey Joe, you could also try, if you're still here, you could try Lambert's 123 for blues. Lambert's 123 is really good about blotch, in that it doesn't like to blotch. The stems on it are tough. So if your chefs are relying on tender stems, that may not be the mushroom. But Lambert's 123 is the truth. 3015 is good too. Main Cap has, I forget which oyster it is. I want to say they call it the house oyster. That's also supposed to be good, but I haven't tried that one yet. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. The CNS. Blue PO CNS. I cut a 1/2 inch wide slit along the top, but the bag folded on the tight, easier harvest. Enoki's amazing. Just again, my issue with it is I don't know if I could sell large volumes of it. Who had the one? What's 122 spawn? Oh, my bad. You're talking about Lambert's 123. Yeah, Lambert's 123. So Lambert's, that guy there. I believe Lambert's is the name of the spawn company. That blue oyster was at one point one of the most widely cultivated blue oysters. I think 3015 may have become more popular now, and maybe even King Blue, but Lambert's for a long time was the king, and it's still a fantastic strain. 100% a commercial strain. Are you using supplemented pine pellets, no hardwood at all? Correct. So in Tampa, and I actually don't know like where the line is in the country, but at some point around March or April, the South, at least with Tractor Supply, the South seems to get cut off completely of hardwood pellets from Tractor Supply. And every year I was having a hard time getting entire pallets or multiple pallets full of wood pellets, hardwood pellets. And I would find one here, and then the last second I'd find the next pallet. It was just a struggle all the time. And I know people have grown on pine pellets in the past. This isn't something original to me at all. TR and a bunch of other people have made posts before showing their grows on pine pellets. And a buddy of mine, I believe it's Low Country Fungi, he told me he was growing on pine and he was having incredible success and that he wasn't going to go back. And that blew my mind. So at the time I needed to get my next pallet, right? So I gave it a shot. I bought a half pallet from Tractor Supply of pine pellets. And I just did my typical master's mix, right? So 2 pounds of pine pellets, 2 pounds of soy hulls, 6 pounds of water, 10-pound block. And when it came out of the steamer, it just fell apart great when I mixed it up. It seemed like a drier substrate, like the pine almost accepted more moisture easily than the hardwood pellets. Again, that's from Tractor Supply, not, I wasn't buying wood pellets from anywhere else. And then it colonized well, and I was like, oh my God, this is working. And then the fruits came out. The yields were slightly less, and I noticed the oysters, especially King Blue, the caps would get massive. I mean, like dinner plates, if you let them go. So instead of like a 3-pound yield for each cluster, it was more like 2.2, but it was a consistent 2.2. And it was enough to run a business. And they're cheap and they're year round. And I could just drive down the street and get them. For any other materials I need, like if I wanted to get hardwood pellets, I might have to drive to North Florida to get the quantities I need. But pine pellets are right down the street, and everybody has them. So it's been working for me. I'm only growing blue oyster and lion's mane, because that's what makes money right now. And it works great for those two strains. It's been fantastic, but no hardwood at all. A while back, also, to jump back on it, I was ordering pellets from a company called Lignetics. Lignetics always sent me hardwood pellets. One time they sent me pellets and the bag said blended pellets. And I was scared to death. I was like, oh God, it's not totally hardwood. It's not going to work. But I don't know how to send this back. So I just used it. I got the best results I ever have in my life from blended pellets, a mix of softwood and hardwood. There's something to be said for that, Chad, where I bet you if somebody tested it and they put just like 1 pound of hardwood, 1 pound of pine, and the 2 pounds of soy, 6 pounds of water, I bet you those results would be fantastic. The best results I ever had were from blended pellets. And I almost wish I could get them all the time. How long did you incubate black pearl? It would take about a month. So it'd be white in about 2 weeks, but it wouldn't do anything until about a month. So somewhere around a month, I would put the blocks in the grow room and cut them, and they'd pin pretty quick. If I put them in sooner than that, if I put them in right when the block was white, they would just kind of sit there and dry out a bit. So that drying out of the top kind of, I didn't get the pinning. I would get random mushrooms here and there, but I wouldn't get a nice full canopy where it was worth producing that block in the first place. Black pearl's a tough one. It kind of does what it wants. Just when you think you have that thing figured out, it just throws you a curveball, and maybe it gives you less yields. Sometimes it's amazing and you love it, it's your favorite. That mushroom sells. That mushroom sells very well. If I could figure out how to make that thing more consistent, I would grow it more often. Now it's just something I grow every now and, maybe once a year, just to switch it up and just have an extra offering. I'm not totally a believer in a ton of variety when it comes to mushrooms if you're selling to restaurants. And the reason for that, at least this is my experience too. It might be different for anybody else. I would grow, 8, 9, 10 different varieties, every variety possible, and I would put them in mixed cases, and I would deliver them to the chefs, and they would love it. They're like, wow, this is incredible. You're the best mushroom grower ever. And then the following week, they'll go, hey, in this mixed case, you think you could put a little more lion's mane? And I go, yeah, sure. So I do. The next week comes, hey, a little more oyster in this one, and keep the lion's mane, the same amount as last week. Okay. And it just kept getting diluted so much that eventually what would go on their menu was lion's mane or oyster. So after a while, I was like, let me just focus on those two strains, because those are the ones that people want the most. So it's been a big stress reliever to focus on 2 strains and not have to worry about growing, all of the strains all of the time, because they all fruit at different stages. So it kind of jacks up your rotation. At the new place, I'm bringing variety back, but I'm not doing it like I was last time. I might do 4 types all the time. Yeah, Chad, it's one of those things with pine where I've been telling people hardwood is the right play. Hardwood pellets is what you're supposed to grow on. It's what all these mushrooms grow best on. But it's not the only thing. Not all of us have access to hardwood pellets in this volume year round, depending where you live. If you live where I live, in Tampa, nobody's heating their homes with pellets. It's too hot here. No one's heating their homes anyways. This time of the year, you might put the heater on for 2 weeks. So we can't get pellets the same way everybody else can get pellets. And then your only option is to buy hardwood pellets during those times of the year from internet sources. And I don't know if anyone's had to ship a pallet freight. It's not cheap. Out the door for the pellets and the shipping, you're looking at like $750, and that price only goes up. So, um, the the discovery that pine works good enough to sustain the business was huge for me. A huge relief because now I don't have to stress about getting them. So if you can get hardwood pellets affordably, grow on hardwood pellets. If something comes up where you can't get your hardwood pellets, pine pellets work too. And they work well enough where you'll be just fine and you won't miss a crop rotation, therefore missing deliveries. Let's see, we got about 4 more minutes. Happy New Year, Joe. Sad to hear you're working. What are all these buttons? Oh, just emojis. Cool. Any more questions? Everybody good? All right. I think everybody's good. Happy New Year, Chad. Y'all take care. We'll do this again. See ya.